Donald Trump's hush money trial has just wrapped up its first day without reaching a verdict. Some very key testimonies from Michael Cohen and David Pecker have left the jurors and the public on the edge of their seats right now. And not to mention Donald Trump's legal team, they're fighting back against what, 34 counts of falsifying business records. I mean, the courtroom drama just continues. It's just this ongoing saga here. But new secrets have been leaked within the explosive testimonies about Trump Tower meetings. Oh yeah, catch and kill schemes, and even the allegations involving Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels. Now, with Donald Trump himself expressing that even Mother Teresa couldn't beat these charges, the corruption is literally just unbelievable, guys. Now, the real question is, what will happen next as the jury resumes its deliberations tomorrow morning? Now, before we get into this, guys, all I ask is that you take a second, hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. I know you guys appreciate being up to date on this very, very historical trial with Donald Trump. And I also want to thank you all so much for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for sharing these videos. Got a bunch of people coming in live already. We've got Amy. What's going on? Amy Whelan, Kathleen, Alice. What's going on? Carol, Sandra. Okay, awesome. Kent, I see Kent at the very top. All right, guys. So today, the jury in Donald Trump's hush money trial just ended its first day of deliberations without actually reaching a verdict. I mean, they're working at this thing for like 4.5 hours discussing this. There's a 12-person jury here composed of 7 men and 5 women. Then they ended up sending the jury home right around 4 p.m. today. But the jurors are actually set to resume deliberations tomorrow on Thursday, when they're supposed to be rehearing some key witness testimonies and also to review some of Judge Juan Merchan's legal instructions. Now, this is a big case, guys. This is big. And of course, this request for further clarification, it marked the very first communication from the jury, actually, since the beginning of deliberations this morning. Now, I got to say that I'm a little bit optimistic about this. Probably, I'm even more optimistic about this than Trump is, because basically, the jury asking for more questions means to, in other words, if the jury's asking for questions to be answered before making a decision, that means that they haven't just said, oh, it's Trump, so we're just going to, make him guilty and walk away from this thing, right? They're actually saying, hey, no. Hold on a second, guys. Hold on, DA Bragg. Hold on, Judge Juan Merchan. Hold on, Stormy Daniels. Let's review some of this information again. So this is a very good sign. This is a very good sign. Let me know if y'all see that, right? Now, Judge Juan Merchan, he emphasized to the jurors that it's their responsibility to judge the evidence fairly and impartially, reminding them of their promise that they made during the selection process, during the jury selection process. But again, this is huge, guys. If this jury said, oh, well, I voted for Joe Biden, I'm a Democrat, I don't like Donald Trump, I don't care what, evidence is presented or whatnot, we're just going to, mark him as guilty and go about our lives. They're not doing that. This is actually a good sign. I take this as a good sign, because otherwise, why would you ask for more information? You just, you would have already had your mind made up. So the duration of the duration of this deliberations, we don't know how long it's going to go on for. So it's a little bit unclear. But a guilty verdict would kind of send us, obviously, a significant legal setback to Donald Trump, who, of course, is our presumptive Republican presidential nominee who is trying to get back in the White House. Now, on the other hand, though, an acquittal would be a major victory for Donald Trump, massively boosting Donald Trump's campaign. Can you imagine the MAGA supporters hitting the streets if, Donald Trump walks out with a not guilty verdict? Can you imagine a unanimous not guilty verdict for Donald Trump in New York? If he pulls that off, New York won't be blue anymore. It may turn purple. It might even become entirely red if that were to happen. But, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Given that the verdict, it's got to be unanimous, there's also the possibility of a mistrial if the jury cannot actually come to a consensus, right? So there's the possibility there for the mistrial, right? Now, again, Donald Trump's legal team was actually calling for a mistrial for multiple reasons. There's so many reasons why a mistrial should have been issued. There's so many reasons why Judge Merchan should have already recused himself. Do not even get me started on Judge Juan Merchan's conflict of interest with his daughter's involvement. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Anyway, so after the jury instructions were read, Trump expressed a bit of a pessimistic outlook, reiterating, his belief that the trial is very unfair, and famously stating that Mother Teresa could not beat those charges, but we'll see. We'll see how we do. So, I was actually watching a Donald Trump speech. I think it was a speech he had in New Jersey, and he actually gave like a motivational speech for young folks in the crowd. This was right after someone had almost passed out in the crowd. I don't know if you guys had seen that. And actually, no, it was not New Jersey. It was his Bronx speech, the Bronx speech that he had in New York just the other week, just last week. And basically, some woman, she like passed out, and I don't know if you guys had caught that part of the rally in the Bronx, New York, where he had asked if there were any doctors in the audience to help her out. Apparently, a couple doctors did. He literally just paused the whole rally, the whole speech that he was giving, and literally was waiting for them to help her out. She turned out okay, but he talked about how he gets asked a lot of times by some very powerful people, other entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and whatnot, and they say to him, Donald Trump, like, how do you get up every morning? Like, how do you keep doing this, knowing all these people are coming after you? You got the DOJ, you got the Biden administration, all these different legal entities coming after you. Is it even worth it? Like, how do you even get up every morning? And so just hearing him talk about that during that little motivational session, because he was really trying to inspire people to, young folks who are trying to get started in life. He was trying to inspire people to go after their dreams, to start businesses and whatnot. But I just thought it was really interesting because he talked about how he gets the courage to keep pressing forward. And I think we need that in a president. I think we need, that's the American spirit. That's the drive of a New Yorker. Donald Trump is from Queens, New York, right? So, I think the country could benefit from that renewed spirit because New York's falling apart, guys. New York's falling apart. Anyway, Amy Anglin, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you this evening. Thanks so much for this for the support to the channel. God bless you. But guys, so during these deliberations, Donald Trump, he pretty much stayed in the courthouse where he was posting complaints about the trial on his social media network, Truth Social. He was quoting legal and political commentators, Jonathan Turley, Alan Dershowitz. He quoted these legal and political commentators who were very well known, who supported his view of the case. And in one all caps post, he declared that he didn't even know what the charges are in this rigged case, despite being present when the judge detailed the charges to the jurors. It's unbelievable here, guys. We're at the point, we're past closing arguments. We're at the point where the jury is deliberating. We've heard the defense, we've heard the prosecution side, all their arguments, all the evidence that Judge Juan Merchan decided to allow to admit into testimony during the trial. And we still don't know what the charges are. Unbelievable. Freaking DA Alvin Bragg is a joke. You want to talk about clowns in New York City? You had Robert De Niro in the street just yesterday or day before yesterday. Robert De Niro, who I believe lives in California, if I'm not mistaken. He claims he's from New York, but if I'm not mistaken, he lives in California. So did Joe Biden fly Robert De Niro to New York to read some crappy script and try to rally up the crowd to hate on Donald Trump and put fear in people's hearts that Donald Trump's going to end democracy and introduce autocracy? Like, really, guys? Really? Unbelievable. So, and I've read the comments of a lot of folks. So many people have lost so much respect for Robert De Niro, if they even had any to begin with, but that's another story. But anyway, Donald Trump, he chose not to testify in his own defense. This was a decision that Judge Juan Rashan instructed the jury not to consider in their deliberations. So Donald Trump facing 34 counts of falsifying business records in connection with an alleged scheme to conceal potentially damaging stories about him during his 2016 presidential campaign. These charges stem from the reimbursements made to his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who paid $130,000 to porn actor Stormy Daniels to silence her claims of a alleged sexual encounter with Donald Trump in 2006. Now, here's the thing. The evidence had come out that the story had already been out in 2011. Donald Trump didn't even run for president until 2016. So you can't even try to pin keeping Stormy Daniels from speaking out about this allegation and link it to election interference, because the information was already out 5 years before he even ran. A lot of people aren't talking about this. Chicago Joe, thank you so much, my friend, for the $10 super chat this evening. Thank you so much for your support. Chicago Joe in the house. Appreciate you, brother. So Donald Trump is accused of disguising these reimbursements as legal expenses to hide their true nature as a hush money payment. Well, and here's the other thing. Is there a hush money payment column on the accounting ledger? Because I don't think I've ever seen that before. You got legal expenses, you got, office supplies, there's rent, there's, loan repayments, utilities, staff, payroll. There's no hush money payment column. So this is so stupid. And Donald Trump paid Michael Cohen, who was his lawyer at the time. So how is this not a legal expense? It's so dumb. It is so dumb. This is unbelievably outrageous. Donald Trump has pled not guilty, arguing that the payments to Cohen were for legitimate legal services. He also denied having any kind of extramarital affair with Stormy Daniels. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump was trying to keep her mouth shut, no pun intended, because he didn't want Melania Trump to get upset. Whether it was true or not, and Donald Trump completely denounces any of these allegations. He says he didn't have any relationship with this woman. So he says he didn't do anything with Stormy Daniels. But the thing is do you really want your wife to hear these rumors about you? No. Does Donald Trump want Melania Trump to hear these rumors about her husband? No. So it was more about Donald Trump keeping some drama out of his house, keeping these stupid, rumors out the kitchen. Does Donald Trump want to walk in the kitchen, go in the refrigerator and grab something, turn around and find Melania staring him down, looking mad at him because of something that she heard? No, he don't want to deal with that. So, a man in Donald Trump's position, he writes a check to make the problem go away. It's not an admission of guilt. It's just like, look, here's $100,000, shut up. It's basically all he did, right? Donald Trump makes $100,000 probably a day, So it's like, look, just go away, find something to do. Anyway, Fed Up Patriot, thank you so much, my friend, for the $10 super chat this evening. The tables are a-turning. Continue to resist and refuse the evils of communism. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for the support. There was a comment earlier yesterday, and I've seen this yesterday and the day before yesterday. I think I'm starting to see it more and more frequently. It's a little bit disturbing that people are now comparing America to like the Soviet Union, and they're looking at Donald Trump's trial, they're comparing it to the Soviet Union and how America is worse than the Soviet Union. Is that true? Does that ring true to you guys? I don't know if that was an anomaly perspective, or is that now the general consensus of people thinking that we're worse than the USSR. Anyway, so for Donald Trump to be convicted, the jury has to unanimously find that he created a fraudulent entry in his country's records or caused somebody else to do so. On top of that, with the intent to commit or conceal another crime. That's a lot to ask. So that really is a tall order to ask of the jury. And again, going back to what I said earlier in the beginning of the video, I think that if the jury is asking for additional information, let's rehear that testimony again. The jury wants to make a good call, I think. Why else would you just want to hang out in this freezing cold courtroom when you could just say, he's guilty? They would have been done today. So since that didn't happen, I think that the longer that in my opinion, I think the longer the jury pushes this thing out, the more legitimate that they're being, trying to give Donald Trump a fair trial. Now, keep in mind, this is the same jury that heard the prosecution's closing arguments last, which is normally not how it goes down. Usually the closing arguments, the final closing arguments, are delivered by the defense attorney, which would have been Donald Trump's team. But of course, Juan Merchan and his biased judgment, he made sure that the prosecutors were the last words that the jury heard. So, just to let you guys know, I don't think a lot of people knew about that. Anyway, prosecutors are alleging that Donald Trump violated a New York election law, which makes it illegal for two or more conspirators to promote or even prevent someone else's election by unlawful means. Now, while the jury has to unanimously agree that any kind of unlawful act was committed to promote Donald Trump's campaign, they don't need to agree on what specific unlawful act it was. Now, of course, the jury in Donald Trump's hush money trial, consisting of a very diverse group of Manhattan residents from various professional backgrounds, which is actually very important, often appeared captivated by the testimonies of witnesses like Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. In fact, many jurors actually took detailed notes, which is a good sign. If they're taking detailed notes, they're not just, falling asleep. They've already made the decisions. Oh, we don't like Donald Trump, whatever. Wait me up when this thing's over. That kind of thing, right? If they're taking detailed notes, that's a good sign that maybe they do actually care about delivering our former president and potentially, future president for 2024, president number 47. They're recognizing the impact that their choice is making. And I think it was a good call. And I don't think I didn't hear anybody. I didn't hear any analysts talk about this, but I thought it was actually a good call from Todd Blanche, who's Donald Trump's legal attorney. I thought it was a very good call. And it was kind of like Alina Habba brought it up before, who was like, Alina Habba was his lawyer for the Letitia James, Judge Arthur Engoron case earlier this year. But she's more or less the legal spokesperson for Donald Trump right now, even though she's not representing him in this particular hush money case. I think it was a good call for Todd Blanche to kind of break the rules a little bit, because as they say, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission sometimes, right? And I think that it was a very good call for him to do this. What I'm talking about is Judge Juan Merchan pretty much yelled at him for making the jury think about the fact that they could be possibly sending Donald Trump to jail with their decision. And there were a couple of attorneys and whatnot on CNN and MSNBC talking about how the lawyer, Donald Trump's attorney, is not supposed to do that. But I think it's one of those things where, if you watch sports, sometimes you commit a foul in basketball on purpose. Now, normally you don't want to commit a foul. You give the player a chance to shoot, a couple of free throw shots and give them some extra points. But there are times when you strategically take a foul, typically to run out the clock or to stop the clock and things like that. I think Donald Trump's attorney said, hey, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but since Judge Juan Merchan is so biased and you're going to make me deliver my closing arguments before the prosecution's closing arguments, let me put a little bug in this in this jury's ear that their decision could possibly put a father in jail. This was a gamble that he took that was worth taking because he's not supposed to do it. And there's a reason why, because it adds a little bit of guilt and increases their consciousness to think about before you make a selection, before you say Trump is innocent or guilty. Think about the repercussions of the decision that you make. Whether you like him or you don't, think about how you could impact another human being, and would you want that to happen to you? Let's just say you're on trial and someone doesn't like you, even though you're innocent. Do you send that person to jail just because you don't like them? Even though the evidence is there that shows that they're actually innocent? It's not right, right? Anyway, I think that was a good call for Todd Blanche on that one. But a lot of jurors, they took a lot of detailed notes. And we're, according to what we're told, because of course, Merchan, another one of his weird rules, he didn't want cameras in the courtroom so you can't see the injustice that's taking place. A lot of jurors are taking detailed notes. They're paying very close attention to the proceedings and indicating their deep engagement with the case. I think that's a very good sign. Now, Tuesday this week, after the marathon day of closing arguments, the jury began their deliberations. A prosecutor spent more than 5 hours presenting the case. We're talking about DA. I don't know if it was DA Alvin Bragg or one of his other guys. But anyway, let's just say it was DA Alvin Bragg, right? For the sake of argument. He's talking about the high burden of proof required to establish Donald Trump's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Of course, Donald Trump's legal team, on the other hand, Todd Blanche, doesn't need to prove his innocence. Because remember, you're innocent until proven guilty. So it's really the burden of proof is on the prosecution. The prosecution has to prove that you're guilty, not the defense proving necessarily that you're innocent. Now, of course, the defense is always supposed to, basically play tennis back and forth with the prosecution, knocking down whatever their allegations are. But the burden of proof always falls on the prosecution. Donald Trump's legal team doesn't have to prove innocence, but aims to convince at least one juror that the prosecution has not made a convincing case. That's their goal, at least one. Now, Judge Juan Merchan, he provided the jury with guidance on evaluating witness testimony and considering different factors like plausibility and consistency with other evidence, the witness's demeanor and potential motives to lie. I mean, there's so many motives for Stormy Daniels to lie. There's so many motives for Michael Cohen to lie. And Judge Merchan, he noted, quote, that there's no particular formula for evaluating the truthfulness and accuracy of another person's statement. Now, this is what he said. But here's the thing, guys. Michael Cohen just keeps lying. So while there's no way to verify the truthfulness of another person's statement through a formula, what formula do you need when you keep seeing the pattern of lie after lie after lie? His nose is touching the freaking gavel at this point. Anyway, the advice was particularly relevant to Donald Trump's defense, heavily questioning the credibility of witnesses like Michael Cohen. Now, in the afternoon, jurors requested to rehear certain parts of Judge Juan Merchan's instructions and specific key testimonies. Big one here, guys. Very big. In fact, they asked to revisit testimony from Michael Cohen and David Pecker. David Pecker, for those of you guys who don't remember, is the former publisher of the National Enquirer. How many of you guys, does anybody read the National Enquirer? Is that still even a magazine? I used to see it when I was a kid, when I would be like with my mom, going through the checkout aisle of like the grocery store, be like where all the candy are, or all the candy is and whatnot. I don't even know if National Enquirer is still there. Anyway, so David Pecker, former publisher of the National Enquirer, this included some details on an August 2015 meeting at Trump Tower where David Pecker basically pledged to act as the eyes and ears of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. David Pecker testified that this meeting marked the beginning of a plan to identify and to suppress potentially damaging stories about Donald Trump, also known as his catch and kill scheme. So kind of like a secret meeting, so to speak. Anyway, so jurors, they are also very interested in David Pecker's account of a phone call with Donald Trump regarding a rumor that another media outlet was trying to buy a story from former Playboy model Karen McDougal, who just so happened to allege a year-long affair with Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump, he denied the affair, and of course, Trump denied the affair. David Pecker, he testified that Donald Trump called McDougal a nice girl and asked for advice. Now, if you call a girl nice, if you say a girl, if you see a girl, or if there's a conversation about a girl and you happen to say, oh, she's a nice girl, this doesn't mean you did anything with her, right? Anyway, David Pecker, he suggested buying the story to prevent its publication. Trump responded that he doesn't buy stories because they often leak anyway, and said that Michael Cohen should handle it. So, David Pecker, he believed Donald Trump was aware of the details of McDougal's claims, and he considered the story to be true and potentially embarrassing for the Trump campaign. That was his call. So the National Enquirer's parent company, American Media Incorporated, they eventually paid Karen McDougal like $150,000 for the rights to her story, which also included writing opportunities for their fitness magazine and some other publications. Quick shout out to Jeff Poor. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for the super chat this evening. You are the man. You are a blessing, and we totally appreciate you here on the channel. Thanks so much for your support. Now, another key piece of testimony here. The jurors, they wanted to rehear David Pecker's decision in October 2016. Another key point. A lot of people, I don't think that all of New York hates Trump. I mean, it's very clear, guys. And I wonder how many of, here's the thing, the psychology of people. People are influenced by others. People are influenced by their friends or neighbors, their colleagues at work. The folks who are attending these rallies and are converting from Democrats to supporting Trump, or being an independent and choosing to support Trump, and just hearing him out and just watching what's happening, I think some of that collective thought may be bleeding into the jury here, because the jury has asked for yet another piece of testimony to be reheard. And what they want to rehear is they want to hear David Pecker's decision in October to back out of the agreement to sell the rights to Karen McDougal's story to Donald Trump through a company that Cohen had set up. Why would you do that if you had already made up your decision that Donald Trump's guilty? So that's a plus. That's a plus. This agreement, known as the assignment of rights, was canceled by David Pecker, who testified that he told Cohen to rip up the agreement because it was a bad idea. Cohen, on the other hand, he reacted very angrily and warned David Pecker that the boss is going to be very angry at you. Now, throughout this whole trial, Donald Trump and his legal team has maintained that the charges are just unfair. I mean, we've heard it so many times. And I think most of you guys agree that this trial is unfair. Trump, expressing his frustration, famously stated Mother Teresa couldn't beat those charges, but we'll see. So we'll see how it goes. Now, of course, Trump's legal team, they continue to fight back, questioning the credibility of the witnesses, emphasizing the high burden of proof required for a conviction. But hey, we're going to see, guys. We are going to see. What do y'all think? What do y'all think about this? Fed Up Patriot, thank you so much for the huge $10 super chat this evening. Fed Up Patriot says, a shout out and hats off to our moderator, Catalia. We are blessed to have her. Man, we sure are. We are so blessed to have Catalia up in here. Appreciate you, girlie. Thank you so much, Fed Up Patriot. The love in here is unbelievable. I really do appreciate you guys. Really do. Ben Vineyard says, when you're getting robbed, you're not allowed to defend yourself. I know. That's basically what that's basically what Mershon believes in. When you're being robbed, you can't defend yourself. When you're being what's the term, when people are just, you know, trying to spit on your name and lie about you. You're not supposed to defend yourself. Just keep quiet. Like, unbelievable, unbelievable. Well, guys, I just want to thank y'all for tuning in. I have a lot more to share with y'all. If you haven't already, please do your boy a favor, hit the like button for the video. Totally appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. Consider subscribing to the channel, hit that notification bell, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next one.